Hello guys, we're here in another video of History Mode. Today we are going to talk about the bourgeois revolutions, and we are going to get started. By the bourgeois revolution, the bourgeoisie gained political power and a social status which had only been available to the nobility under the ancient regime. This revolution took place during the late 18th and the early 19th century. This process began with the two revolutions, the American Revolution and the French Revolution. Before talking about the whole explication, I'm going to give a short definition of them. The American Revolution, um, the first bourgeois triumph was independence of the United States. This was an example to follow in other countries. So we have the French Revolution, and this put the end to the absolute monarchy and the state system of the ancient regime. This marked the beginning of a new period of history, the modern age. So now we're going to talk about the American Revolution. Which were the causes of the American Revolution? So, in the American War of Independence, Great Britain fought against its 13 colonies located in the Atlantic coast of North America. So, now, what were the causes of this war? First, we have the ideological factors. The colonists were familiar with Enlightenment thinking about liberty, equality. These ideas were the basis of the independence. We have an article in our blog about the Enlightenment if you want to know more things about it. And we have another reason, political factors. The British Parliament made decisions about taxes and other issues related to the colonies. So we have two economic and social factors. So there was a wealthy colonial bourgeoisie who wanted the freedom to trade without the interference of Great Britain. So they wanted to make their own decisions to control the government and the trade and economic things. So this the main reasons why they revolt. So now I'm going to talk about the War of Independence. The War of Independence began in 1775 when some of the colonies decided to fight for independence with their own army. Led by George Washington, the war developed into stages. In the first stage, Great Britain had some military success, but the colonies took actions that were politically significant. And then the Continental Congress proclaimed the Declaration of Independence the 4th of July of 1776. In the second stage, the colonists' military won at the Battle of Saratoga. This led to Spain and France to offer their support. In the Treaty of Versailles, Great Britain recognized American independence and the birth of the United States. Later, in 1786, the United States Constitution was adopted. Because of this, they established a federal republic based on alignment ideas, equality, and liberty. So, United States became a symbol for liberty and equality. So, we're going to talk now about the causes of the French Revolution. So, this was a period of violent political and social change, which ended with the absolute monarchy and the state system of the Ancient regime. It began in 1789 and it was considered the first European bourgeois revolution. The causes were the influence of the alignment. They wanted to put them into practice and be free and equal before the law. And then the economic crisis. The French monarchy was in debt because they spent all the money on parties, palaces, and on other luxuries, and also because of participation in military conflicts, such as in the American War of Independence, because they helped them to win that war. Then after 1770, the price of grain increased because they obtained a very poor harvest, so they increased the prices. So as the bread price increased, the peasant and the poor people suffered from hunger. They didn't have nothing to eat, so yeah, it was very horrible, the situation. So then we have the social crisis. This affect to each state from a different way. The privileged state, the clergy and the nobility, were able to maintain their income, but the third estate suffered from rising taxes because they weren't equal before law. So, and then because they were the only state that paid taxes, as I said. Um, the political crisis was another cause because Louis XVI ministers suggested that he no that the privileged states should pay taxes, but the nobility and clergy didn't like it because they didn't want to pay any taxes. So they refused and demanded the king to call the states general, the only one who can approve new taxes. Louis governed France as an absolute monarch. No one could limit his power. So now we're going to talk about the events of the French Revolution. First, we have the National Assembly. That is this image that we can see here. So the third estate asked for a new voting system in which its representative would vote individually. But when the king refused, they formed a national assembly. They met at the tennis court and declared that they would not leave it until France had a constitution. The Constituent Assembly is where the king agreed to the third estate demands, and a new Constituent Assembly was formed to write a constitution. As the monarchy was no longer absolute, it was a triumph for the bourgeoisie. Then we have the Legislative Assembly. After the Constitution of 1791 was established, there were elections for the new Legislative Assembly. So we have two political groups emerged: the Girondins, that were the rich bourgeoisie, so they supported constitutional monarchy and limited suffrage. They dominated the Legislative Assembly. And then we have another political group, the Jacobins. A small bourgeoisie, they had more radical opinions, so they wanted to abolish the monarchy, establish a republic, and introduce universal male suffrage. During this time, France was under constant threat from Austria and Prussia. In response, France declared war in these countries in 1792. The defeats of France and at the hands of the European armies caused riots among the population. In August 1792, the people of Paris rebelled and attacked the Tuileries Palace. As a result of Louis XVI resistance to accepting revolutionary changes, Louis was imprisoned and France became a republic. Then we have the convention. This was the most radical phase. A new assembly called the convention agreed to execute Louis on the guillotine for treason. The Jacobins took control of the government and imposed a dictatorship known as the Terror. The Jacobins were led by Robespierre and supported by the Sans-Culottes, that they were radical Parisian workers who supported the revolution and who were involved in protests and riots. The Directory and the Consulate. The moderate deputies adopted a new constitution that established limited male suffrage, a symbol of the bourgeoisie's power, and it also introduced a new form of government called the Directory that was more conservative. So then, in 1799, General Napoleon Bonaparte organized a military coup. Napoleon established a new form of government called the Consulate. In 1802, he was named First Consul for life. This allowed him to introduce reforms to end France's political and economic instability. By 1804, Napoleon had absolute power, and the French Revolution had ended. The Napoleonic Empire in 1804, Napoleon declared himself Emperor of France. He became indispensable to France, and Napoleon's main political achievements were: he put the domestic policy, consolidated the changes during the revolution. He established the civil code, was a set of laws applied equally to all citizens. It introduces concepts as civil marriage, divorce, adoption, and private property was also protected. Foreign policy made France an empire because his victories over Austria, Russia, and Prussia. Then Great Britain was the only country never defeated by Napoleon. He spread the principles of liberty and equality across Europe and also brought the introduction of new constitutions that ended absolute monarchy in many European countries. Napoleon's desire was to create a united Europe made up of kingdoms under French imperial control. In 1812, he failed the invasion of Russia, and his army was defeated in 1813 in the Battle of Leipzig. Finally, he was defeated in the Battle of Waterloo in 1815. So that's it, guys. I've explained all the I've made a brief summary of the bourgeois revolutions. So hope you enjoy it, and bye bye.